King Lundqvist. All hail King Lundqvist. All hail King Lundqvist. Truly, I am not worthy of his presence, and neither are any other goaltender in the National Hockey League. He is the king, ladies and gentlemen. And he starts for the New York Rangers, who have advanced to the second round and are shipping it up to Boston to take on the Boston Bruins. What's going on, everybody? It is me, Smyth, Rob Smyth, in the house with you for another playoff edition of What the Puck? Second round action time. All kinds of stuff happened in the first round. And you know, I got these jerseys behind me. I got the Rangers and the Bruins. Or not the Bruins. The Bruins. The BC College Eagles for a reason. These two teams are like a farm system. You look at all the guys that have come out of BC that go to the Rangers. Kreider, Drury, Boyle. The list goes on and on and on. And the two teams from these two wonderful cities of New York and Boston, love Boston, will go head-to-head. It's going to be a physical series. Now, before we get to any of that fine material, I have been reading a lot of NHL literature. Last week it was Theo Fleury's book I recommended. This week is another one. If you were alive and followed hockey during this time between the Avalanche and the Red Wings, when they were huge rivalries, you've got to read this book. It is by Adrian Dater. There he is right there. It looks like Ben Crane a little bit on the PGA Tour, but there he is for you. He works for, what the hell is it here? The Denver Post out in Colorado. Great read. Did you know, in this story, after Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals in 1996, when Lemieux rearranged Draper's face on a hit from behind, after that game, the Avalanche wanted to go on to sweep the Panthers in that Stanley Cup Final. But did you know, after that game, Scotty Bowman rolled down the window of the bus and was hollering profanities at Claude Lemieux as he was walking out of the arena with his wife and his baby. Lemieux got so pissed off that he actually boarded the Detroit bus, got up about 2 steps, and was yelling obscenities, "How dare you yell in front of me and my child," and things like that, and he was pissed off, and righteously so. You don't bring family and kids into it. So there you go. It's called Detroit Red Wings versus Colorado Avalanche Blood Feud. If you think you knew everything about this rivalry, think again. Read this book. You won't regret it. Now, what can I tell you, folks? Here we go. Oh, by the way, getting back to Henrik Lundqvist, I pulled this off of the Newswire. The last NHL goalie to pull off double shutouts in Game 6 and Game 7 was Detroit's Dominik Hasek in 2002 against Colorado. Big stat right there. Henrik, you are the man. And, of course, it's been more than a decade since a goalie has been perfect over Game 6 and 7 for that time. Dominik Hasek, Henrik Lundqvist in the same category. All right, moving right along. As you could say, oh, by the way, answers to last week's media question that I had on YouTube and on my beautiful Facebook page. I had, has there ever been any back-to-back Conn Smythe Trophy winners in the NHL playoffs? Now, a bunch of you probably could have looked it up. I looked it up as well. 1974, Bernie Perron with the Flyers. 1975, Bernie Perron with the Flyers. 74-75, and the only other person to win back-to-back Conn Smythe trophies, the great Mario Lemieux, from 91 to 92, both those years, he won it. Good for him. Now, of course, as a Rangers fan, I like this guy, but I know there are a lot of people that hate this guy. Mike Keenan, Iron Mike, will be coaching in the KHL. Now, let me tell you something. If you want to learn how to improperly pronounce names, especially Russian names, keep watching, because you'll see in just a matter of seconds. He signed coach of the Metallurg Magnitogorsk of the KHL. He announced it online. Because, of course, it's the Russian and European champion team and the club that gave Evgeny Malkin his first start. Keane is 63, worked for MSG Network. Awesome job there. He had a good show with Coach John Tortorella called Behind the Bench, which was pretty cool. In-depth look right there. His fifth in all-time wins as an NHL coach with 672. Iron Mike. He's coached Philadelphia, Chicago, the Rangers, St. Louis, Vancouver, Boston, Florida, and Calgary from 84 to 85 through 2008 to 2009. Won the Cup in 94 with the Rangers against the Vancouver Canucks. News leaked out that, it was crazy. News leaked out during that season that he'd be coach of the Blues. The following season, after they won, Keenan resigned over a contract dispute. I don't know. Anywho, what can I tell you? Metalurg Magnitogorsk, known as Magnica, that's better, in Russia, finished fifth in the league's Eastern Conference last season with 27 games and 25 losses. It was coached by Paul Maurice, former Maple Leafs coach, former Hurricanes coach. And what can I tell you? He takes over a team that has the top KHL score from last year. There's a lot of good talent there in the KHL, not just ex-NHL guys, but guys who are returning to play pro hockey, or beginning to come up to play pro hockey, of course, in Russia, Mother Russia. Okay, so here we go. That was Sergei Mozyekin. He had 35 goals and 76 points in 48 games. Keenan will love him. Malkin, of course, played with this team during the NHL lockout, scoring 23 goals and 65 points in 37 games. There you go, Iron Mike on the move again. A lot of people hate him, according to Theo Fleury in his book. Some really, really disturbing things that Fleury had to say about him in that book. You should read that. So, moving right along here on the program, I have for me the penalty buck score from Game 3 of the first round between the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. And let me just read off a few. Third period. Rene Bourque tripping. Francis Bouillon, game misconduct. Jared Cowan fighting. White slashing. Bouillon fighting. Smyth fighting. Mullen fighting. Chris Phillips fighting. Tenorti fighting. Cassian fighting. Armstrong fighting. White fighting. Phillips, game misconduct. Smyth, game misconduct. White, 10-minute misconduct. Tenorti, game misconduct. Armstrong, game misconduct. Mullen, game misconduct. Neal fighting. Neal, game misconduct. Matt Cassian, game misconduct. Jared Cowan, 10-minute misconduct. Josh George is charging. PK Subban, instigator. Torres fighting. Conacher, roughing. Bourque elbowing. Subban fighting. Subban, 10-minute misconduct. Brandon Prust roughing. Jean-Gabriel Peugeot, cross-checking. Thomas Buchanan's cross-checking. Corey Conacher cross-checking. Prust elbowing. Gallagher fighting. Conacher fighting. Rene Bourque cross-checking. And Rene Bourque slashing. Whew! That was a hell of a fucking game, let me tell you right there, watching that live. Unbelievable to see that scrum. And the funny thing is, in my opinion, Montreal instigated every single one of it. It all started with that Ryan White slash right there that got things going and things escalated. Now, after that game and in Game 1 of that series, because there was a lot going on in that series, including in each of the first 3 games in that series, by the way, a player lost a tooth and went on to have a first-star performance. Craig Anderson lost it on a shot, then Terry Price while getting kicked, and Jean-Gabriel Peugeot from a stick. What about this guy, huh? Jean-Gabriel Peugeot. Hat-trick, loses his stick. Welcome to the NHL playoffs. And it took just more than 33 minutes of Game 1 for this series to get nasty. Eric Ryder's controversial shoulder check on Lars Eller left one Montreal top forward bleeding and concussed. Everyone was sad. They brought the stretcher out. It was a bad situation. I'll play you some clips of what happened after that momentarily. The Senators' critical 6-1 victory in Game 3 will be remembered by one of the biggest line brawls to date, and bad blood remind me of the old Detroit, Colorado days, although not quite. No goalie fights, eh? Not only did they jump the hated Habs on the scoreboard, they responded to a 2-hand slash by Ryan White, like I mentioned, by beating them up 5-on-5. Donnybrook that saw victories scored by Cowan, Smyth, Cassian, and Phillips. So all the Senators won that line brawl, and they humiliated Montreal in that game. Absolutely humiliated them from start to finish in every facet of the game. Now, after that game, after Game 1, screw it. Yeah, starting with Game 1, and all throughout the series, there was sound bites lovers' dreams because Paul Maclean, the head coach of the Senators, had some words. Okay, Michel Therrien didn't like it. Brandon Pruss got involved, and away they went. So I would love to play you, if I can find it here, minimize that thing right there, play you just to see what it was like, not only for the players but for the coaches as well. So this was after Game 1 with the hit right there when Eric Greiber's shoulder check. So this was after the Greiber shoulder check on Lars Eller in Game 1 of Montreal, and Paul Maclean had this to say about it.
Well, everyone was blaming my player for doing what he's supposed to do. All I did was point out what happened. So, no. I feel bad that the kid got hurt, but that's what happens. It's a hockey play that went bad for him. And all you guys were going to stand around and say that Eric Greiber was to blame, and all I did was tell you what it was. So if that's being harsh and being cruel to player 61...
Player 61?
Grow up.
Doesn't even know. Here's Brandon Pruss.
Disrespect.
It's the best line I've ever heard.
Over there, so we
Listen
don't
to this.
really care about what that bug-eyed fat walrus has to say.
The one thing I could do, though,
Here's Michel Therrien.
it's comment on Maclean's comment. Inappropriate comment. No respect for the players on the ice who was bleeding. No respect for his family in a stand.
True. He's upset. I don't blame him.
When he compared that to a hockey hit, the comparison that he did was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Comparison.
And this
Comparison?
is why we got new rules.
Okay.
To avoid those hits.
I agree.
When a player is vulnerable, that's why we got rules. That was a lack of respect.
Oh, that was rude. That was also a lack of respect.
A lack of respect.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
to
to
his
burp.
family,
Yeah.
and I'm never going to accept that. Never.
I'm just trying to coach.
Here's
the game.
Maclean.
They can say whatever they want to say. I'm going to say what I want to say. I am who I am, and I just don't matter to me. I'm just here to coach the team.
Oh,
When
no.
the D steps up. You know,
All right, that's enough of that right there. And then it continued, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages across the world. It continued right here after Pruster made that nice comment. Pruster, by the way, I miss him so much as a Rangers coach, as a Rangers fan. But that was the best soundbite I have ever heard in a long time. So let's continue with the sound bites.
Levity to Brandon Pruss' personal attack on the Senators' bench boss.
Bug-eyed. I've never been called that before. That's a new one. Walrus. That's too easy. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm not fat. I might be husky, but I'm not fat. So I took offense to that.
Of course, all of this stems from the Eric Greiber hit on Lars Eller in Game 1 and saw the Senators defenseman handed a 2-game suspension. What has upset the Canadians, their fans, and media the most was following the game, Maclean referred to Rafael Diaz, who gave Eller the pass, by his
Nasty
number
hit, I'm
only
watching it
and
right
not
now.
by name. Michel Therrien and his team believe Maclean was being disrespectful.
If I hurt his feelings, oh my God, I apologize for that I didn't know who the player on the other team's name was. I don't know. But if that's the battle of words, I don't see that.
Maclean, who's a former assistant head coach under Mike Babcock in Detroit, was asked if the war of words between the two head coaches in this series was being done intentionally. An old coaching tactic used to try and shift the focus away from the players.
I'll
Ridiculous.
have to look it up in the manual. What page is it on?
I'm sure my bad
Oh, that page.
It's in the Mike
I
Babcock
gotta go find
section
that
of the book.
again.
Brent Wallace, TSN.
I don't have a problem with any of that going on except for the hit. And, I really do think that Paul Maclean is an absolute clown. First of all, for not even paying respect to the guy who was cheap-shotted as a result of his player, calling him player 61. Let me tell you something. These coaches and these assistant coaches know these guys' number. They know their guys' names because they spend hours of video footage watching them and seeing what they do. So he didn't have the guts and the courtesy to give the guy's name. Absolutely ridiculous. Paul Maclean is a clown, and you'll further hear why he's a clown with this clip, which was after the brawl in Game 3, which was instigated by Montreal. But Paul Maclean did call a timeout when he was up like 6-1 with like 15 seconds left, and here's what happened after that.
calling a timeout at 17 seconds left in the game. I never saw that before. Even I was mentioning to the referee, he never saw that before. You never want it humiliating another team as a coach. And this is exactly what happened tonight. As far as I'm concerned, that was classless.
I agree.
Just to act as devil's advocate, don't you think that Maclean might have just been telling his team to come back and not get involved in...
Whatever he's going to say, it's 6-1 with 17 seconds left. I don't like when a coach making comments. I don't like a coach when trying to humiliating our team. I don't like that.
Paul, Coach Darren seemed a little perturbed by the timeout at the end. Can you explain your thoughts on it?
I would, 1658 elbowing, 1942 cross-checking, 831 instigator face shield. I had 10 players left on my bench. I put them on the ice, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I felt bad for the referees.
Yeah, right.
But
when do you feel bad for the refs? When does any coach feel bad for the
refs? I wanted
refs?
them to do. So my only recourse was to take the time out because I didn't want anyone to get hurt. It was already getting dumb enough as it was.
I agree with that part.
And I got two important players on my team. I still got games to play. Like, we're not giving them a freebie. There's already enough of that. So, in order to protect my players, under circumstances that were instigated by the Montreal Canadiens, I was forced to protect my players.
Oh, bully. That's ridiculous, Paul Maclean. Did you just hear what he said? And I hope he realized what an idiot he was for saying that. He said, in order to protect my players, okay, I called a timeout. Which might be true, because Montreal was cleaning it up. The only tough guy left for the Canadiens in the lineup at that time was Brandon Pruss. But think about it. If you call a timeout, and you're up 6-1 with 15 seconds left, to me, that would indicate you pissing off the Montreal Canadiens and the coaching staff and whatnot, and me as a coach or as a player would want to get out there and mess someone up as a message of disrespect for doing that. So you're not even protecting your players. You're putting them in more harm's risks. Now, God forbid that didn't happen, but it easily could have if guys like White and those guys were back in the lineup at the time. Total nonsense. Paul Maclean is a clown. True to that. True to the 10th degree. All right, now, second playoff matchups. We got all kinds of very interesting things, including 2 original 6 battles. Very psyched about that. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Penguins going up against the New York Rangers. Seed number 1 versus seed number 7. The Penguins have to find ways to solve... the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Ottawa Senators. Woo! Pittsburgh Penguins and Ottawa Senators. Now, Craig Anderson has been phenomenal, okay? The Penguins need to find a way to stop this guy, okay? He was Ottawa's best player against Montreal. 71 of 180 shots were stopped with a .950 save percentage. Crosby had 3 goals and 9 points in the 5 games. Iginla scored twice and added 7 assists. Pascal Dupuis scored 5 times in 6 games. So you talk about awesome depth with that Pittsburgh Penguins lineup. The Senators and Penguins will meet the previous times. Have met 3 previous times in the Stanley Cup Final, with Ottawa winning the first round series in 5 games in 07 and Pittsburgh sweeping them in the opening round in 08. They met again in 2010. Pittsburgh won 6 games, including 3 victories at Ottawa. Now, this is interesting. Again, this son of a bitch, Matt Cook, pops up again, okay? February 13th meeting between the two clubs was the night when Penguins forward Matt Cook delivered a hit to Senators defenseman Erik Karlsson that resulted in the reigning Norris Trophy winner suffering a 70% tear on his Achilles tendon. I don't know if that'll be a big storyline in this game. For me, if I'm the Senators, I'd say yeah. Run Cookie whenever you can. Whenever chance you get, run him. Now let's talk about the forwards. Like I said, they got Malkin, 2 goals, 11 points in the playoffs. Iginla, 2 goals, 9 points in the playoffs. Dupuis, 5 goals, 7 points in the playoffs. He's been their MVP in my opinion. Pittsburgh forwards have combined for 19 goals in 6 games of the series. On the Ottawa side, you got Daniel Alfredsson, tied for the lead in scoring and anchors the top line. What did I tell you last time? I said Alfredsson was going to have a big game. This is his last chance to win the Cup, and he's doing it right now with the Senators. Defenseman Paul Martin, been outstanding for Montreal, for Pittsburgh. Letang had a pair of goals and 6 points. Played more than 27 minutes a game, plus 3. Martin, 26-12 per game and 6 points, plus 6. On Ottawa, you got Erik Karlsson, Mark Mathot, Jared Cowan, and Eric Gryba. 2 really, really, really big guys there on defense, holding it tight for the Senators. Still, Karlsson is what's the deal with him anyway? Karlsson is clearly still recovering from the Achilles tendon that he took from Matt Cook. And from his leg, he seems to be all right. Still, he's tied with Alfredsson for the team's scoring lead. Goalies. This is a good one, folks. After a great showing in Game 1, Marc-Andre Fleury suffering through a 3-game run that saw him allow 14 goals, several of which were downright awful. He was disgusting. He was awful. He made saves that I could have made blindfolded, all right? He was just absolutely pathetic. This guy's been known to choke in the playoffs, and this year is no exception. So who comes to the rescue? Backup goalie Thomas Vokoun, who played a lot of games for this Penguins club in the regular season. The 36-year-old put him in there for Game 5, and he responded with a 31-save shutout. Unbelievable. So he's the guy right now in Pittsburgh. You got Craig Anderson, .950 save percentage. He did not allow a single third-period goal in 40 shots in 5 games with the Senators. Scored 12. He allowed 2 goals on 66 shots. You got Danny Bylsma, who has a cup. He's been shuffling guys in and out, including Bo Bennett, Yuli Jokinen, Eaton Kennedy, stuff like that. And Coach Paul Maclean, the clown, has Zibanejad, Conacher. They were benched for long stretches of Game 4, but they scored in each and the third period. So Maclean doing the old school method of benching guys, which I don't agree with, but I don't agree with Tortorella doing it either. He's done it before. So there you go. Scoring 4 times with 13 power plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins, 33% conversion rate. The Penguins only allowed a pair of man advantage goals, and for the Ottawa Senators, going 4 for 56 across their 14 games in the regular season on the power play. Not great, but they do have a 20.4% success rate. Yeah. So what do I like in the series? I like the Pittsburgh Penguins in 6 because they have a lot more depth, like I've been saying. You can't beat them, except maybe for Chicago. They got the playoff experience. They played in the big games before. Ottawa's a very young team. Vokoun takes over from what I've seen in that first game he played in against the Islanders. He was phenomenal when Fleury just sucks right now. And I think the Penguins will draw some penalties. Ottawa likes to play a big physical game. That fourth line with Chris Neal and company will mess them around a little bit, draw some penalties. I say Penguins in 6. Moving right along to the Boston Bruins versus the New York Rangers, an original 6 matchup here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They met 3 times in 4 years in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Bruins beat the Rangers on the way to the Stanley Cup 1970 and 1972. The Rangers exacted some revenge by ending the Bruins championship run the following spring in 1973. I wasn't alive again. I wasn't even this big. I wasn't even conceived at the time. Wasn't even begin to be thought of being conceived at the time. Between the two, but it's the first meeting between these two clubs in 40 years. New York won 2 of the 3 regular seasons. That doesn't matter. It's the playoffs. For the offense, you got David Krejci, 13 points with their wild 7-game series win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Milan Lucic is just a destructive force as a young Eric Lindros out there. Tallied 9 points, 2 goals, 7 assists, and 7 games, and probably like 80 hits. Patricia Bergeron coming up party in Game 7, as all you know. And, of course, forward Jaromir Jagr, a former Ranger, is held without a goal in the opening round, but he's 41 years old, and he's still the best skater in the world, in my opinion. Nathan Norton has 7 points in many games against Toronto. Pesky left wing Brad Marchand, the Weasel. That guy will be a pest to play against. 36 points and a plus 20 feet rating during the season. Now, for the Rangers, you got Brian Boyle centering Derek Dorsett, who they acquired in the trade for Columbus, who was injured and just started playing, and Taylor Pyatt. All right, you got Brassard between Rick Nash and Matt Zuccarello. You got Derek Stepan, Carl Hagelin, and Ryan Callahan. And you got a 4th line of Brad Richards, Chris Kreider, and Aaron Asham. Ash is the man. You'll love that guy. He's so cool. 2 goals already in the playoffs. A big one the other night, so look for that. But it really comes down for the forwards for the Rangers is Rick Nash and Brad Richards. They have to get going. It just goes to show you the depth that the Rangers have in their lineup. When Nash and Richards are in the slumps that they are, they can still win games. They get goals from like Asham. Derek Dorsett, I thought in Game 6 had the best game. I've ever seen him play. Of course, I haven't seen him play that much. It's only like his 3rd or 4th game with the Rangers. But he had a hell of a game. He stood out to me. But these guys need to get going. Pure and simple. I hate how all the top guns, they come to New York and they're expected to score and they don't perform well in the playoffs. Now, Nash may not be used to it. Richie, there's no excuse. The guy won a Conn Smyth with John Tortorella with Tampa. He knows what it takes to perform in the playoffs. He's got to step up and do something or he's going to be stuck on that 4th line getting 7 minutes a period. So that's my opinion. They're, of course, without Darryl Powell, a great penalty kill, and Ryan Clough, who gives them some physicality along the boards there. Defense, Daniel Chara played a 35-minute and 40-second game in Monday's Game 7 victory. 35 minutes, folks. 6'9" defenseman. He ranked 3rd on the club in scoring against the Maple Leafs with 8 points, 1 goal, 7 assists. They may go without Andrew Ference, who missed the final games of the opening round against the Maple Leafs with undisclosed injury, and Dennis Seidenberg, who played just 37 seconds Game 7 due to be a lower body energy. Then you got Johnny Boychuk, Matt Bartowski, and perhaps rookie Dougie Hamilton, who will get in there as well. Stahl is still injured for the Rangers after that shot in the eye. He came back, played in Game 3 against the Capitals, but did not return to the series because of his vision. Ryan McDonough and Dan Girardi, those were the 2 guys that personally shut down Alexander Ovechkin in the first series. Ovechkin only had 1 goal. He was like 1 for, I don't even know, 30 against Lundqvist. And a big reason for that was not only Lundqvist, was for Girardi and Strawman going down the block shots, using the body, forcing them to the outside. Just absolutely phenomenal. Michael Del Zotto, Anton Strawman, John Moore, and Steve Eminger did a great job as well. Now, in between the pipes for the Bruins, you got Tuukka Rash, who appeared in all 7 games for Boston, going 4-3 with a 2.49 goals against average and 9.3 save percentage, going up against All Hail the King, Lundqvist. Between the pipes, he's the best goalie in the world right now. I don't care what anyone says, he is the best right now. I hope he wins the cup. He deserves it more than anybody in the entire league. And without the Rangers, and without him playing for the Rangers the way he had been, they would have been on the golf course at least a month ago. So he finished the series with back-to-back shutouts. How do you do back-to-back shutouts in the playoffs? 1 shutout in the regular season and in the playoffs is tough enough. But 2 back-to-back? I don't believe it. He's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 1.65 goals against average and 0.947 save percentage. Claude Julien versus John Tortorella. Tortorella believes in the team concept. He's old school. That should be interesting to watch. Special teams, Bruins power play ranked 14th on the 16 game involved in the opening round, 15%. Their penalty kill was 11th in the opening round, 76%. Rangers were very disciplined, and I'm going to say something right here. As a Rangers fan, I hate to say this, but in Game 6 in New York against the Capitals, I don't understand how not a single penalty was called on the Rangers. And I'm a diehard Rangers fan, don't get me wrong. I find it odd that in today's game, with the crackdowns on the obstruction, and literally you touch a guy and he sprawls over like a soccer player, I find that hard to believe that in a game that's officiated like that today, that you can get away in the playoffs with not a single penalty being called. I'm just saying, the Rangers, they got very fortunate with the Zebras in that game. Okay, what do we got here? What it basically comes down to is this. I got the Rangers winning this series against the Boston Bruins in 7. Why? They got more depth. And even with an awful power play, which was awful, it was like 2 for 25 in the first round, they were able to win. If they can do that against Washington, I think they can do it against DC. But they need to get it going. Think about it. Think about how dangerous the Rangers would be right now if their power play was superb. Okay? And also, they got speed. I think with this Bruins team, they're going to bang around the Rangers a lot. Guys like Lucic, Marchand, Chara, even Thornton, if he's playing, they're going to bang the Rangers up. I like the Rangers team of last year on paper, going up against this physical team. You get guys like Rupp and Prust, and guys like that, a more physical. A more physical presence. I like last year's team going up against this physicality team, but the Rangers are going to get banged around. However, they can get by these big guys. A guy like Lucic, he's not the fastest guy in the world. He can hit. That's why they got Zooks, Matt Zuccarello and Carl Hagelin, the speed around these guys. Goaltending, enough said, Henrik Lundqvist. And if they can draw penalties, Boston has a bit of a hotheads on the team. Lucic especially. They can get under these guys' skins, work on the power play all day in practice, and score some power play goals. The Rangers will win in 7 games. Let's go to the West now. Chicago Blackhawks and Detroit Red Wings. I love this Western Conference because you've got an original 6 rival and you got a battle of California rivals going at it. Chicago, of course, got by Minnesota. Detroit got by Anaheim in a Game 7. Anaheim, I like Bruce Boudreau's Coach of the Year, though. He came in there last year when they were awful, turned them around. His winning percentage went right up, and look at what he did this year in the regular season. Bruce Boudreau, Coach of the Year, in my opinion. The postseason was the 2009 Western Conference Finals when they last met, when the Red Wings won 5 games. The 16th time the teams have met in the postseason, of course, the original 6 clubs. It could be their last matchup for a while due to the alignment when Detroit will move to the Eastern Conference. Now, let's talk about the forwards. Jonathan Toews or Patrick Kane did not have a goal in the series. Toews only had 2 points for the series, tying him 8th on the club. Patrick Sharp rebounded from a great season, 5 goals in as many games, and Martin Hossa scored 3 goals as well. Other guys to look out for: Brian Bickle, Mikko Frolik, Marcus Kruger, love that name right there for Detroit. 2 guys who stand out more than anyone: Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg. Enough said. Justin Albuquerque, who's going to get under their skin if he doesn't take any more stupid penalties and suspensions. You got Johan Franz in the front of the net, Filppula, and Danny Cleary. Defense, you got Duncan Keith as a first round against the Wild. He returned in vintage performance, had a goal, 5 points. You got Nicholas Chalmerson +5, Seabrook, Nick Leddy. Those guys held Zach Parise to a single goal for that series, so that says something right now. And you got Nicholas Cornwall for Detroit on the blue line steady. Now in between the pipes, you got Corey Crawford for the Blackhawks, and Ray Emery posted nearly identical regular season stats. Ray Emery sustained a no lower body injury, of course, so Crawford is in. He allowed only 7 goals in 5 games. Emery seems likely to dress at some point to the backup for Corey Crawford. And you got Jimmy Howard, very consistent against the Ducks. You got Joel Quenneville for the Blackhawks. Check this out. He publicly challenged his team to raise their play at an even higher level in the 2nd round after manhandling the Minnesota Wild. This guy knows how to motivate a club, and of course you got Mike Babcock. Reached the Stanley Cup Final 3 times, won once, lost the other 2 in Game 7. Coached Canada to a gold medal in the Winter Olympics. Reached at least the 2nd round of the playoffs. You know, it's just ridiculous, this guy. He's got tremendous experience for that. 100% penalty kill rate for the Blackhawks in the Series 1, 19th during the regular season at 16.7%. The Wings scored 6 times on the power play against Anaheim. Penalty killing was an issue at times for them. I like the Chicago Blackhawks advancing to the conference finals in 6 games. I think it's going to be a close series score-wise. Very, very close to the end. Detroit has older guys. They get tired quickly. I think they use up a lot of their energy quickly, especially Albuquerque and those guys. And look for Patrick Sharp will come around and look for him to get Jonathan Taser, they call him. Look for him to get going. Now moving out to the left coast, if you're on the East Coast and anywhere east of the East Coast for that matter, the left coast. Los Angeles and San Jose, as I like to call it. 2nd time the California teams have met in the playoffs. The defending Stanley Cup champion dropped their first 2 games in the Western Conference, but bounced back to win the next 4. The Kings scored 12 goals in the first round against the Blues. What a series that was! Physical. I think the guys on NBC counted over 80 hits or something in Game 5. It was ridiculous. Of course, Jeff Carter is sick. Mike Richards and Dwight King combined for 10 points. They're all sick. They're very dangerous people on the ice. And for the forwards, for the Sharks, you got Logan Couture and Joe Pavelski. Couture had 8 points, 3 goals. As did Pavelski, 4 goals. Thornton had 6 points, which included 1 goal. Patrick Marleau had 4 goals for the Sharks. Scott Gomez returned from injury to play 2 games. He's got the experience. Martin Havlat in Game 1 has been out, hasn't returned yet. Adam Burge has an upper body injury. And look for breaking turns or rugged Matt Pelt, the 6'4", 235 converted defenseman who had 238 penalty minutes in the A with Worcester this season. I like him already. Defenseman, Drew Dougherty. Drew Doughty, second among all players in the first round with an average ice time of 28:49 per game, 33 minutes, unbelievable. Robin Regeer, those guys are solid. And each of the 6 defensemen for the Sharks had at least 1 point in the first round. Dan Boyle has 4 points in the last 4 games. Goalies, Jonathan Quick, former last year, or actually current Conn Smyth runner-up and Stanley Cup champion winner. Terrible start in the series. Ugly goal he gave up there in St. Louis, but he's bounced back. Antti Niemi, 11-2 in overtime in the Stanley Cup playoffs. 11-2 in overtime in the Stanley Cup playoffs, posting a 1.86 goals against average and a 93.7 save percentage. Unbelievable. Daryl Sutter going up against Todd McLaren. Special teams, they scored just 2 power play goals, LA. Kind of like the Rangers, eh? The Kings won the Cup with a power play that ranked 12th out of 6 teams with the playoff teams last year. This, I've been saying all along that the 2 ingredients that you have to have in the playoffs are good goaltending and a good power play to go for. This stat kind of contradicts that. The Kings won the Cup with a power play that ranked 12th of the 16 playoff teams last year. So it can be done, but it sure as hell helps to have a good power play. They allowed 2 power play goals and 17 chances. The power play for the Sharks won 7 of 24 chances. Top unit of Boyle, Couture, Marleau, Pavelski, and Thornton combined for 19 extra man points, and the Sharks only gave up 2 goals on the power play. I say Sharks in 5 games here. I think Quick is going to bounce back from being shaky. He might bounce back. He might start off the series very well, but I think he'll revert back to his old ways. I think Niemi's hot. I think Niemi's better right now. And I think the power play will step up big time for the Sharks. And of course, the power play has been struggling for Los Angeles as well. And what the hell did I write here? Countdown Carter. That's what it looks like I wrote, Countdown Carter. But it doesn't matter because the Sharks will win that game in 5. I, of course, have filled out my bracket. I was right in my first bracket with the Rangers going against the Capitals and winning in 7 games thanks to this gentleman right here. But I'll reveal that to you at a later time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, rage, or anything, respond right here. Comment on the video. Go to my Facebook page. Search Rob Smyth. Chances are you'll find me. And if you have any good trivia that you want me to know about, I'm always open for new learning experiences. I'll take notes. So enjoy the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. There's some great ones. Rangers, Bruins, original 6. Penguins, Senators, Detroit, Chicago, original 6. And the Battle of California, San Jose, and the Los Angeles Kings. Enjoy the hockey. I'm Rob Smyth. Until next time, what the puck? What the puck, man?